Hey, what's going on everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Backwoods Escape, where we test out and review gear that you can consider to use on your next trip. And in this week's video, I'm kind of continuing the theme of my last couple of videos where I'm not necessarily reviewing the gear that you use in the backcountry itself. I'm testing out or talking about supplementary gear that you need to get to the backcountry, whether it's your items that you carry with you, or in this case, the food and drinks that you take with yourself on these trips. In my previous videos, right, I did my Rhino rack and the Skybox Carbonite 16 to carry some gear, but now let's talk about food transportation. Obviously, you need food for any outdoor adventure or extended outdoor adventure that you're going to be on. So obviously, while this is not going to be in the backcountry with you, strapped onto your back, whether you're doing a long-term outdoor country adventure in the backwoods where you're just kind of doing some primitive camping, it's always nice to come back to your vehicle to some cold food where you can make a sandwich and some cold drinks, particularly a beer. I'm not gonna lie, like having a nice cold one after a nice long outdoor trip. Or obviously, if you're not doing anything in the backcountry per se, you can still go to campgrounds. I still go to campgrounds myself. You need to carry all your food with you, so you need a high quality cooler to make sure that you have some good ice retention and that your food and drinks stay cold and fresh throughout the entire trip. I am reviewing the Canyon cooler. This is the Outfitter 75 just being the amount of quarts in terms of the size of this cooler. This model comes in several different sizes. I believe the smallest one is about 40 to 45 quarts, and then their biggest one is 125 quarts. So depending on your various needs, there's a size that's gonna fit for you. Why did I go with Canyon over Yeti, right? That's a common question. Yeti is the big player in the industry when it comes to coolers. They're a great company, don't get me wrong, but I ended up going with the Canyon cooler for a couple different reasons. One, first and foremost, there are other people out there that they have the funds and storage space to buy and test out multiple coolers. I'm not one of those, but I did watch several people. They tested out Yeti versus Canyon and a couple other different models, and the Canyon cooler came out on top in terms of ice retention. So it actually did a better job than the Yeti itself, and on top of that, it's actually cheaper than the Yeti models, even for the same size. You're getting a better cooler at a cheaper cost, so that's a win-win scenario right there. Another reason I ended up going with Canyon cooler, and this is actually one of the first things that drew to me to this brand, was actually just the shape of the cooler itself. You might be familiar with Yetis, where it starts up wide up top and then it narrows down and then it goes all the way down to the bottom. I am not a fan of that because when you're packing a bunch of gear into your vehicle, the way that the Yeti is shaped, because it's not a straight arrow down, it kind of curves at the top and then goes down, you're losing that space below the curve, right? When you're trying to store a bunch of stuff into your vehicle. Whereas this, as you can see right here, this is a just perfect rectangular shape. You're not losing any space, just straight lines down the whole way. So I really felt that it was just better overall for maximizing the amount of space in my vehicle. The other thing I really like about it is that the hinges are super easy to unlock right here. Again, if you've ever dealt with a Yeti, those hinges can be a little bit tough to pull off. As you can see here, I'm not even looking at it right now, and I can get this and easily open and close all of these hinges to get access to the cooler itself. Looks like a regular cooler inside. So the other cool thing about this is that the way these hinges are designed don't stick out. And that's actually very good for when you're in bear country, right? So there's not too much there for a bear to claw on. Obviously, you know, they can kind of keep on trying to get at it, but there's nothing that's sticking out right here that makes it easy for a bear to grab onto with its teeth, which is why it actually even says right here on the box, these are bear resistant coolers, right? It's not 100% bear proof. It still means that a bear could potentially get inside your cooler, but just compared to other models, it's a bear friendly design, so to speak. Now, if you do buy this, there are a couple things though you need to do in order to maximize its value. You do have to pre-cool this if you really want it to be a fantastic cooler. So at its best, this can easily hold ice for up to 5 days, if not more. There was a scenario once where I went on a trip, I came back, and I had left this in my 4Runner, and I forgot that I had left it in there with some ice. And over a week later, I came back in, and there's actually still a little bit of ice in here. So it can certainly last over a week, possibly even up to 10 days. But if you just grab all of your food and then throw some ice on there and close this up, it's really not going to give you that great of performance. In order to get maximum performance out of this, this, you want to pre-chill it. So basically there's two options. One, you can put in what I like to call sacrificial ice, where you fill this with ice, you leave it overnight, and then once you start filling all your food, you dump all that ice and then you put new fresh ice in there. So what that cooling does is process, it makes everything on the inside cool. You're insulating it. It starts off at a cold state. That way when your food goes in there, your food and drinks, it's already automatically cold. You seal it up with some fresh ice and it's gonna stay really cool for your whole trip. The ice is not going to melt much. Or depending on what time of year it is and where you live, the other option you can do is that you can just leave this outside overnight, right? So if you live in a place where the temperatures drop at night, down into the 30s or something like that, just leave it outside in your backyard, open it up, all that cool air is gonna go in, come in the next morning, put in your food and drinks, put in fresh ice, and it's gonna be good. When I pre-chill this, there have been situations where I'll come over here to empty out the water, so to speak, and I'll turn the knob and no water comes out because no ice has melted in here. It's a really, really strong performance. So just make sure you do go through that pre-cooling process. It's just gonna work out so much better in the end for you. So I will put a link for this for you below. I've been very impressed overall with this. I think there's just so many advantages going with this model as opposed to Yeti. I don't have an affiliation with Canyon. I'm just trying to promote a product that I've enjoyed myself, so I'll put the link for you below. And if there's any other pieces of gear that you would personally like for me to review, let me know. I'll check it out, I'll give it a test, and I'll let you know my honest thoughts. So that's all I've got for you today. I will see you in the next one.